Tonight, the Supreme Court has made a critical move that could have far-reaching consequences for the future of gun rights in America. The eyes of the nation are fixed on the highest court as justices weigh in on a case that has sparked passionate debate from coast to coast. At the heart of the controversy is a California law banning magazines that hold more than 10 rounds, a measure that has been both fiercely defended and hotly contested since its inception. The case, Duncan versus Bonta, stands as a central battleground in the ongoing national debate over gun rights, public safety, and the limits of government regulation. Both sides have mobilized, with rallies, legal briefs, and public campaigns highlighting the stakes. The implications of this case are immense. A ruling could reshape gun laws not just in California, but across the entire country, potentially setting a new precedent for how the Second Amendment is interpreted and enforced. The core question: are high-capacity magazines, standard for many modern firearms, protected by the constitutional right to keep and bear arms, or can states restrict them in the name of public safety? California officials argue that these magazines increase the lethality of mass shootings and pose a significant risk to public safety. They believe banning them is a necessary step to save lives and prevent future tragedies. On the other side, gun rights advocates insist that such magazines are commonly used for lawful purposes, including self-defense and sport shooting. They argue that banning them infringes on fundamental constitutional rights and sets a dangerous precedent for future restrictions. This disagreement has fueled a decade-long legal battle, touching on deeply personal issues of safety, constitutional interpretation, and the proper role of government in regulating firearms. The case has wound its way through lower courts, with each decision adding fuel to the national debate. For gun owners, this is a test of fundamental rights and personal freedoms. For others, it represents a crucial measure to prevent gun violence and protect communities from harm. The Supreme Court's intervention signals a potential shift in how Second Amendment cases are evaluated, building on recent landmark rulings that have expanded gun rights and redefined the legal landscape. Lawmakers, law enforcement, and citizens across the country are watching closely, aware that the outcome could influence future legislation and court battles for years to come. Tonight we break down what this decision means, how we arrived at this historic juncture, and what the future may hold for gun rights and gun control in America. This story is about more than legal arguments. It's about the nation's unique and complex relationship with firearms, woven into the fabric of American history and identity. The court's action has sent shockwaves through the political and legal landscape, igniting fresh debate and prompting immediate reactions from both supporters and opponents. Let's examine the path that led to this pivotal moment and consider what lies ahead as the nation grapples with the balance between individual rights and collective safety. California has long led the nation in gun control legislation, often setting trends that other states watch closely. The state's lawmakers have consistently pushed for stricter regulations, citing public safety and a desire to reduce gun violence as their primary motivations. In 2000, California took a major step by banning the manufacturing and sale of magazines holding more than 10 rounds. However, at that time, the law allowed existing owners to keep their so-called high-capacity magazines, creating a significant loophole that many gun owners relied on. That changed dramatically in 2016, when voters approved Proposition 63. This new law closed the grandfather clause, making it illegal not just to buy or sell but even to possess these magazines, regardless of when they were acquired. Overnight, millions of law-abiding citizens were suddenly required to surrender, sell, or move their magazines out of state, or face criminal charges. Many faced difficult choices, unsure how to comply or whether to risk becoming criminals for keeping property they had legally owned for years. Proponents of the ban argued it would save lives by forcing attackers to reload more often during mass shootings, potentially giving victims and law enforcement precious extra seconds to react and intervene. The Attorney General's office strongly defended the law, calling it a common-sense safety measure designed to protect communities and reduce the lethality of gun violence. Opponents, however, saw the ban as a direct assault on constitutional rights. They pointed out that these magazines are standard for many popular firearms and are widely used for lawful purposes such as sport shooting, hunting, and self-defense. Critics also argued that criminals would simply ignore the law, leaving law-abiding citizens more vulnerable and unable to defend themselves effectively in dangerous situations. With passionate arguments on both sides, the stage was set for a major legal showdown as lawsuits challenging the ban quickly made their way through the courts. The battle over California's magazine ban would soon become a national test case, with other states and advocacy groups closely monitoring the outcome. Ultimately, the outcome would have implications far beyond California's borders, potentially shaping gun laws and legal precedents across the entire country. The legal fight began in 2017, when a group of determined gun owners, led by Virginia Duncan, decided to challenge California's ban on high-capacity magazines. Their lawsuit argued that the law infringed on their Second Amendment rights, setting the stage for a high-stakes constitutional battle that would last for years. The plaintiffs, supported by gun rights activists and legal experts, brought their case to federal court, hoping to overturn what they saw as an unjust restriction on lawful gun ownership. In 2019, Judge Roger Benitez struck down the ban, calling it unconstitutional. This decision triggered a brief but dramatic period known as Freedom Week, when thousands of high-capacity magazines poured into California gun stores as residents rushed to take advantage of the ruling before it could be reversed. The state quickly appealed, and a panel of the Ninth Circuit initially agreed with Benitez, giving hope to gun rights supporters. But in 2020, interdisciplinary I-21, a larger en banc panel of the Ninth Circuit reversed course, upholding the magazine ban as a reasonable measure to address gun violence and public safety concerns in California. The plaintiffs, undeterred, appealed to the Supreme Court. Their case arrived just as the legal landscape shifted dramatically with the 2022 Bruen decision. The Bruen ruling established a new test for gun laws, requiring that any firearm regulation must be consistent with the nation's historical tradition of gun control, fundamentally changing how courts evaluate Second Amendment cases. Duncan versus Bonta quickly became one of the first major tests of this new legal standard, drawing national attention from both sides of the gun debate. The case's journey through the courts has been marked by a series of reversals, appeals, and ongoing uncertainty, leaving gun owners and lawmakers alike unsure of what the future holds. Each step in the process has raised the stakes, not just for California, but for gun owners and lawmakers across the entire nation, as the outcome could set a powerful precedent. The Supreme Court's involvement signals just how important and far-reaching the issues at hand truly are, with the potential to reshape gun laws nationwide. The outcome of Duncan versus Bonta could ultimately redefine the boundaries of the Second Amendment, impacting millions of Americans and the future of gun regulation. The legal battle is far from over, and the nation continues to watch as the case unfolds. The next chapter in this landmark case will be written by the nation's highest court, whose decision could echo for generations. All eyes have now turned to Washington, D.C., as the country awaits the Supreme Court's next move in this pivotal legal journey. On Christmas Day 2025, the Supreme Court issued a pivotal order in Duncan versus Bonta. The court granted review, vacated the Ninth Circuit's ruling, and sent the case back for reconsideration, a GVR order. This erases the previous decision upholding California's ban, and requires the lower court to apply the stricter Bruen standard. Now, California must prove its law fits within the nation's historical tradition of firearm regulation, a much higher bar. The immediate effect: California's magazine ban is in legal jeopardy. The Ninth Circuit must re-examine the case through the lens of history, not just public safety. Legal experts say finding historical precedent for such a ban will be difficult. The outcome could set a powerful precedent for gun laws nationwide. The Supreme Court's move has sparked intense reactions. Gun rights advocates celebrate, calling it a victory for the Second Amendment and a sign the Bruen standard will be enforced. The California Rifle and Pistol Association praised the decision, confident the ban will be struck down. Governor Newsom and gun control groups condemned the move, warning it endangers public safety and undermines progress against gun violence. Social media erupted with passionate debate. Gun owners expressed relief, while advocates for stricter laws voiced alarm. Groups like Moms Demand Action called for renewed political action. The divide is stark, with both sides mobilizing supporters for the next phase. The legal uncertainty has energized activists across the spectrum. The nation is watching as the battle over gun rights intensifies. The Supreme Court's decision is already reshaping the political landscape. For Democrats, it's a rallying cry against judicial overreach and a call for stricter gun laws. Republicans see it as vindication of their judicial strategy and a win for constitutional rights. The ruling will fuel election campaigns and legislative battles nationwide. Socially, the uncertainty creates tension. gun owners feel emboldened, while communities affected by gun violence feel vulnerable. Law enforcement faces confusion over enforcement priorities. The firearms industry is watching closely. A final ruling could open or close major markets. The legal fight has already cost millions and will shape future policy debates. The ripple effects will be felt in courts, legislatures, and communities across America. The stakes have never been higher for both sides. For California law enforcement, the Supreme Court's decision adds complexity to an already confusing situation. With the ban's future uncertain, many departments may deprioritize enforcement, awaiting clear guidance from the courts. Officers are caught between changing laws and community expectations. Gun owners, meanwhile, are cautiously optimistic. Many hope they'll no longer face prosecution for owning magazines they legally acquired. The period known as Freedom Week saw a surge in magazine purchases, leaving many in legal limbo. The Supreme Court's move validates their belief that the ban was an overreach. Still, uncertainty remains as the case returns to the Ninth Circuit. Gun owners are hopeful, but wary of another reversal. The legal battle continues, and both sides are bracing for the next decision. For now, everyone is watching and waiting. Legal experts say the Supreme Court's GVR order was expected after Bruin. Professor David French notes the new standard makes it much harder for California to defend its ban. The state must now find historical precedent for banning magazines in common use. A tall order. The Supreme Court's Heller decision already established that arms in common use are protected. Hundreds of millions of these magazines exist nationwide. Legal scholars believe the Ninth Circuit is now tightly constrained by the Supreme Court's instructions. The outcome will test whether lower courts will faithfully apply the new Second Amendment framework. The decision will have national implications for gun control laws. The Duncan case now returns to the Ninth Circuit for a full re-evaluation under the Bruin standard. The outcome is uncertain, but the legal landscape now favors challengers of the ban. Whatever the Ninth Circuit decides, another Supreme Court appeal is likely. The fate of California's magazine ban and similar laws nationwide may ultimately be decided by the Supreme Court. This case is part of a broader battle over the meaning of the Second Amendment in modern America. The judiciary's role in balancing rights and public safety is under the spotlight. The debate over guns is far from over. The legal principles forged here will shape policy for years to come. We'll continue to cover every development. For NBC Nightly News, I'm Lester Holt. Good night.